Welcome to this explainer. You know, technological progress is almost always taught to us as this straight, upward line. We naturally assume we're constantly getting smarter, building better, and just generally moving forward. But what if that isn't entirely true? Today, we're diving into a genuinely mind-bending reality. Ancient technology that outright defies the very laws of modern physics as we understand them today. We are going to explore inventions and constructions from thousands of years ago that casually break our rules of classical mechanics, thermodynamics, and optics. Honestly, it leaves modern scientists and all their supercomputers completely scratching their heads. Just think about our modern concrete for a second. We literally pour billions of dollars into maintenance every single year, mostly because the materials we use for our highways and parking garages start crumbling in about 50 years. Now compare that to Roman concrete. The Pantheon in Rome was built in 125 AD. It features the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the entire world, and it stands perfectly intact today. We're talking over 2,000 years later, having survived earthquakes, floods, and just the endless march of time.
All right, let's get right into Section 1, Defying Classical Mechanics, Moving Mountains and Analog Computers.
Okay, let's dive into this. Think about this number for a second, 130 tons. High up in the Andes Mountains above Cusco, Peru, the Inca built the sprawling fortress of Sacsayhuaman. The walls there are constructed from limestone blocks that weigh up to 130 tons each. The sheer physical impossibility of moving these massive blocks up a mountain without wheels, without draft animals, or modern heavy machinery is a puzzle that absolutely defies everything we know about classical mechanics and the engineering limits of antiquity. But here's the crazy part. The weight is really only half the story. These massive blocks feature an interlocking stone precision that is hard to wrap your head around. There is no mortar, no cement used at all. They fit together like a massive 3D puzzle, and they are packed so tightly that you literally cannot slide a single piece of paper between the blocks. Perfectly displacing load and friction without mortar defies classical mechanics in ways we still really struggle to model. And we see this mirrored at the site of Pumapunku in Bolivia, sitting at nearly 13,000 feet above sea level. There, blocks made of andesite and diorite, literally some of the hardest stones on Earth, were cut with millimeter precision by a civilization that supposedly didn't even have iron tools. And if their grasp of structural engineering wasn't shocking enough, consider the timeline of the Antikythera Mechanism. In 1901, Greek sponge divers found this heavily corroded lump of bronze in a shipwreck dating all the way back to 65 BC. After this specific device was created, there was a massive 1,400-year gap of lost knowledge before the rest of the world finally caught up again during the Renaissance. Finding this in ancient Greece is kind of like digging up a functioning laptop in a Viking burial mound. So what did it actually do? Well, packed inside a device roughly the size of a shoebox were at least 30 precision-cut bronze gears. It functioned as a highly complex analog computer. It could predict solar and lunar eclipses, track the 5 known planets, calculate the exact dates of the Olympic Games, and even model the irregular orbit of the moon. That is a feat requiring insanely advanced mathematics. And the wildest detail of the whole shebang? It was found in a shipwreck right alongside common cargo. That means someone was just casually shipping this technological marvel across the Mediterranean like it was absolutely no big deal. So it's pretty clear ancient peoples mastered mechanics and physical transport in ways we can hardly comprehend today. But that raises a massive question. How did ancient civilizations manipulate chemical properties in ways we still actively fail to replicate? Which brings us to Section 2, Chemistry that Breaks Rules, Self-Healing Stone and Unextinguishable Fire. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is exactly how that ancient Roman concrete actually functions. For centuries, literally nobody knew why Roman concrete got stronger over time instead of weaker. But in 2023, scientists at MIT finally cracked it. The Romans used these tiny white chunks called lime clasts. The step-by-step breakdown is absolutely fascinating. Basically, when a crack forms, water naturally seeps into the concrete. Those little lime clasts react with the water and dissolve, and then the material actually recrystallizes, automatically filling in the crack. Roman concrete literally has a built-in self-healing mechanism. In fact, seawater, which aggressively degrades our modern concrete, actually activates this process and makes their ancient harbors even stronger. From miraculous creation, let's pivot to devastating destruction. Consider the terrifying properties of Greek fire. In 672 AD, a massive Arab fleet was bearing down on Constantinople. The Byzantine Empire defended themselves using a weapon that completely defies chemical logic and the known laws of thermodynamics. It was a liquid that could be easily sprayed through mounted tubes, but here's the kicker. It ignited instantly on contact with water. Once lit, it actively burned on the water's surface, and it absolutely, under no circumstances, could be put out. It decimated the enemy fleet in seconds. For centuries, modern chemists have been losing sleep trying to figure out the exact recipe. The leading theories out there suggest a combination of petroleum, pine resin, sulfur, quicklime, and saltpeter. But here is a massive problem. Whenever chemists try to mix these ingredients today, they actively fail to match the historical descriptions. A liquid that sprays, ignites on water, sticks to surfaces, and cannot be extinguished contains properties that actively contradict each other from a modern chemistry standpoint. When Constantinople fell in 1453, the Byzantine Empire took the greatest military secret in human history straight to the grave. Okay, so if shifting thousands of tons of stone and mastering self-healing chemistry wasn't enough, we now have to scale our perspective way, way down. How on earth did ancient people manipulate materials at the molecular level? We're talking about them interacting with particles they couldn't even see with the naked eye. That takes us to Section 3, Ancient Nanotechnology, Quantum Physics in the Middle Ages.
Welcome to the absolute climax of our scientific mystery. Take a look at the Lycurgus cup. It's a Roman glass drinking cup from the 4th century AD. Now, in normal reflected light, it appears opaque green. Pretty standard. But if you shine a light from behind it, the glass turns a vibrant, glowing blood red. For centuries, nobody knew how they pulled this off. When scientists finally analyzed it with modern tools, they found the glass was embedded with gold and silver nanoparticles exactly 50 nanometers in diameter. So the crucial point here is this. This is deliberate, highly precise nanotechnology. Manipulating light at this scale is a literal quantum physics phenomenon. It's a mastery of optics and light refraction that modern science only fully understood in the 20th century. And then we have the legendary Damascus steel. Sometime in the early Middle Ages, swordsmiths in the Middle East produced blades so incredibly sharp and their edge so phenomenally fine that they could slice a falling silk scarf clean in half using nothing but the fabric's own weight. They featured these highly distinctive swirling water patterns, which were actually a byproduct of a highly specific internal metallic structure. To truly understand just how advanced these swords were, we have to talk about carbon nanotubes. These are cylindrical structures of carbon atoms arranged precisely at the molecular level. We discovered them in 1991, and they are among the absolute strongest materials known to modern science. Now, prepare yourself for some intense cognitive dissonance. In 2006, scientists at a German university put a fragment of a genuine medieval Damascus steel blade under an electron microscope. And guess what? Embedded inside the metal forged 800 years ago were those exact carbon nanotubes. And this brilliantly illustrates the bizarre paradox of human progress. Think about it. Today, we can build massive particle accelerators, and we can land complex rovers on Mars. Yet despite all our supercomputers and technology, we remain completely unable to intentionally reproduce a sword as good as a 12th century blacksmith. The specific ores and the exact forging temperatures used to create true Damascus steel were simply lost around 1750. Let's move to Section 4, the cost of forgetting. What else has been lost? We really like to think that knowledge is permanent, but to see how vast our historical blind spots actually are, just consider a few of these other anomalies. You've got the Baghdad battery, found in Mesopotamia from 250 BC, containing copper, iron, and an electrolyte layout that produces 1.1 volts of electricity, literally 1,800 years before the battery was officially invented. Then there are the Nazca lines from 500 BC in Peru, these perfectly proportioned geometric shapes and animals stretching across 170 square miles of desert, which are only truly visible from the sky. And of course, the Voynich manuscript from the 1400s, a 240-page book written in an unbreakable code that World War II cryptographers, the NSA, and even modern AI have all completely failed to decipher. Ultimately, as you can see, the Antikythera mechanism isn't just a fun curiosity. It is a literal ancient computer that we genuinely cannot rebuild. Roman concrete self-heals in a way that makes everything we build today look, quite frankly, a little embarrassing. These aren't just flukes. They are superior, physics-defying technologies from the past that really highlight our modern limitations. So, I want to leave you with this final, truly provocative question. If the Byzantine Empire could completely lose the formula for the ultimate naval weapon, and the Romans could simply forget how to make self-healing concrete,
What current modern technologies of ours might be lost to time 2,000 years from now? What everyday marvel of the 21st century will future civilizations dig up and completely fail to understand? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep your curiosity sharp, and I'll see you next time.